Hi, fifth graders. Today we're going to look at two different ways that you will use estimating skills when you're dividing. And remember, estimating is all about finding friendly numbers that can help you use mental math to solve some different questions. So you'll see two different ways that you use estimation when you're dividing. And the first is to find a range that your answer is going to be in between. So I've done some examples of what this looks like. We'll walk through them and then we'll try one together before we move on to the second type of division estimation question you'll see. So first, you might see questions that look like this. The first question reads 357 divided by 6, and that squiggly equal sign means is about. So that tells me I'm looking for what my answer is going to be close to, but not the exact number. And you can see I figured out that my answer is going to be in between 50 and 60. So let's talk about how I got that answer. When I'm estimating, the divisor is always going to be the most important thing to look at first. If your divisor is a single digit, like it is in this example, you're going to keep it exactly the same. And you'll notice I wrote down two different estimates. That's because I want to find one lower and one higher than my actual dividend. So single digit divisor of 6 is going to stay exactly the same. Then I look at my dividend, and I always recommend to fifth graders to draw a box around the first two digits. Because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be skip counting by 6 to find multiples that are really close to this number. But instead of skip counting all the way into the hundreds or the thousands, by drawing a box around the first two digits, you're just using the most common multiples that you work with all the time. And then we can figure out how many placeholder zeros we need to get it to the right number of digits as our original dividend. So in other words, if I'm skip counting by 6 and I have a box around the first two digits to make it look like 35, I know that a multiple less than 35 is 30, and a multiple greater than 35 is 36. Now, remember, my original dividend had 3 digits, so I need to have 3 digits in my estimates as well. So I put a placeholder 0 next to that basic fact of 30 and 36 to make them each 3-digit numbers. Now I'm going to use mental math to help me figure out my range. I saw the basic fact 30 divided by 6 hidden inside that problem. So I first wrote down a 5, but then I remembered I still had that 0 left over. I couldn't buddy it up with anything on this side. So that means that I'm not just talking about 5 groups here, I really mean 50 groups. Same thing in the higher end estimate. 36 divided by 6 gave me 6. Then I had my 0. I didn't have anything to buddy it up with, so that told me that I was really talking about 60 groups. So that's how I found that my range was between 50 and 60. Now let's take a look at example number 2. Example number 2 is a little bit different because this time we have a 2-digit divisor. Now I don't know my 42 multiplication facts, and I don't expect you to either. So what I did was I took that 42 and I rounded it to the nearest 10. That made it 40. I could use the friendly digit 4 to help me find my multiples. Again, I drew a box around the first two digits in my dividend, and I found multiples of 4 that came close to 39. I knew one lower was 36, and one higher was 40. Again, because I had a 3-digit dividend, I made a 3-digit dividend in each of my estimates as well by adding placeholder zeros. Now I found my basic fact, 36 divided by 4 was 9, and this time I had zeros in both my dividend and my divisor. That told me that those two things would have been buddied up, and if I did the division, I wouldn't have had 90 groups. This time I only had 9, so I crossed out any buddied digits, which told me that I had 9 as my first possible range starter. Then I had the basic fact 40 divided by 4, which was 10. I buddied up my zeros, which means I didn't have to do anything else to it, and that told me my range was between 9 and 10. Let's take a look at a couple more before we do one together. This time I had a 4-digit dividend, so 1,322 divided by 18. I found my range was between 60 and 70 because I looked at the 18 first. 18 is pretty close to 20, so I knew I could use the friendly digit 2 to help me. When I drew a box around the 13, I found a multiple lower, which was 12, and a multiple higher, which was 14. Then, because I had a 4-digit dividend, I needed to add on 2 placeholder zeros to make each of my estimates have 4-digit dividends. I looked for a basic fact, 12 divided by 2, which was 6. I looked for any zeros I could buddy up. This time I had 2 in my dividend, but only 1 in my divisor. So I buddied up 1 0 in each of those numbers, and then with the 1 0 I had left, that told me that my range wasn't just 6, but 60. Same thing in the second estimate. I buddied up 1 0 here, which meant I had 1 left, so that told me it was 70. Finally, I did the same thing with this number. It was just a slightly larger divisor. 82 became 80, and I used the friendly digit 8. Close to 55 was 48 and 56. Since I had a 4-digit dividend, I made these 4-digit dividends as well. 80 shared 1 0 with 4,800. So my basic fact was 48 divided by 8 equals 6. My 1 extra 0 made that 6 into 60 groups. And 5,600 divided by 80 had the basic fact of 56 divided by 8, which was 7. And I had 1 shared 0. So the one I had left over told me that I was making 70 groups, which told me my range was between 60 and 70. So let's take a look at this one together. This time I have 4,821 divided by 67. 67 is about 70. So I'm going to use the friendly digit 7 to help me. I'm going to draw a box around the first 2 digits, the 48, and I need to find a multiple that's lower and higher than 48. So I know I'm dividing by 70 in both of these examples. 48 is really close to 49. I know that right away. So I'm going to write 49 as my higher estimate, which means that my lower estimate would be 1 group of 7 less, or 42. I have a 4-digit dividend, so I need 4-digit dividends when I'm estimating as well. So now I'm going to find my basic facts first. 42 divided by 7 is 6, and 49 divided by 7 is 7. But I need to check my zeros to see if I'm really talking about just 6 and 7 or if I'm using something else. So now I need to buddy up zeros. I have 1 0 in my divisor, but 2 in my dividend. So that means I'm going to cross off 1 here because I can buddy those 2 up, but the one that's left over needs to go as part of my quotient. So that becomes 60 groups. Same thing in my 4,900 divided by 70. I'm going to buddy 1 up, and I have 1 left, so that becomes 70. My range then is between 60 and 70. I promise not every range will be between 60 and 70. It was just a happy accident that these all happened to be very close. But hopefully that helped you with some estimating examples for how we can use estimating to find a range. Check out the dividing by 2-digit video to show the second type of estimating questions where you're using them to help you divide. Thanks for tuning in.